Hi, I'm Emma, but you can call me Em. There's a lot of new faces here at the channel, so I thought that today, while I'm making some pumpkin chocolate chip muffins for my kids, I would just yap a little bit and get to know everyone. A little bit about me. I am a professional chef, and I have been for about 14 years now, and I own a catering company in Raleigh, North Carolina. Most of my events are weddings, some corporate events, and some private chef dinners, which I don't get to do super often, but I love it when I do. My favorite cuisine to cook is probably French. It's what I learned. French fine dining was my focus. I am a single mom and I homeschool my 3 medically fragile children. Catering offers me the flexibility to kind of take events as I can and only have to hire a babysitter when I need to work, which is nice. I'm just gonna talk that off because it's not that serious. I get asked a lot why I started cooking, and the short answer is I've cooked since I was little, and I used to help my mom in the kitchen a lot, and I just always got a lot of joy from seeing other people eating what I made and liking it. There's just something super fun about seeing everyone eating something you made and knowing that they are enjoying it. I also really love true crime podcasts. As a survivor of an assault, I think listening to true crime podcasts brings me like a sense of relief of like, oh, there's somebody out there, you know, trying to win one for the little guy. I thought it would be kind of interesting if while I was cooking, I told some stories of fellow survivors that I've met, or, you know, stories that are in the local news. Right now in North Carolina, in my area, there was a shooting at a restaurant that I actually used to work at, so I'm working on getting some of the details from that. I will say that restaurant was the one that made me quit restaurants because it was the worst one I've ever worked at. So when I heard that there was a shooting, while that's sad, I was like, oh, it kind of makes sense from the environment that was there. As a chef, I've had the opportunity to work all over the country and the world with many really prestigious groups. And I always kind of thought that I would use my skills just to be a wife and a mom. I grew up in a really Christian household. I was homeschooled, so I kind of always thought that that would be where my journey took me. So I was always, I don't know, I always look back with surprise at the fact that like it took me into a full-fledged career. My ex-husband had a stroke almost 4 years ago, and at the time I had just opened a cafe 1 week before his stroke, and thankfully, because I had this career, I was already the breadwinner of a family, so it wasn't a huge financial blow when he was sick. I managed to keep the cafe running and my kids healthy and my ex-husband alive for 2 years before everything just kind of came to a head and it was time to figure something else out. So I closed the cafe down in May of 23, and that was a really hard decision. I think there's nothing harder than saying goodbye to a dream, although I will be completely honest, it was not my dream. I always wanted to open a restaurant, but I thought it would be later in life after my kids were grown and in school. So we had at the time a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and then my husband at the time had a stroke, and it was a lot. But my community came around me and they were so helpful, took care of me, took care of the kids. Definitely spent a year or more feeling very, very cared for by my community. Now I've had the opportunity, as I've kind of gotten my feet under me, gotten used to the new normal, to be able to just step in and help out in areas where I can. So I help out with some single moms organizations. I'm always your girl if you need a meal, if you've just had a baby or whatever, I'm gonna bring you a meal. And I have more bandwidth to homeschool my kids. The decision to do that was probably the hardest one. I definitely felt like such a failure when I was closing down the cafe. And I think as moms, we can all kind of relate to that when things aren't going perfectly or we feel like, I don't know, we're letting people down in one way or another, just that sense of failing. So closing down the cafe for me was the hardest decision I've probably ever made. One, because for, you know, a career, that's like the gold standard, right? Like I opened my own cafe, I was doing it. But then to watch my kids just mentally and physically struggling as a mom, that's my number one priority. It's not, you know, a fancy meal or, you know, happy customers. It has to be my kids. So it was very hard to decide to close down the cafe, but ultimately has led to just a lot of joy. There is nothing more stressful than owning a restaurant, especially in this economy. I think anyone who runs a small business right now is an absolute angel, because it is so hard to run a small business. Just even catering, this is like our slow season, and I get stressed every year and start thinking, do I need to find a regular job? I'm just gonna line my muffin tins. I found these liners when I was using them at the cafe, and they're just on Amazon, so I'm gonna link them to my storefront. This apron too, it brings me so much joy. Just these little lemons, they're just happy, and that's on my Amazon storefront as well. I use these anytime I need to make cupcakes or muffins. They're the perfect liners. I think they're pretty, and they're also thin, so they don't like stick to your cupcake. These are gonna be for my kids' breakfast this week because they love a muffin for breakfast. So I'm using just a 2-ounce scoop, and I just plunk it in, super easy. My kids all have a genetic condition called vascular Ehlers-Danlos. It causes spontaneous rupture of your organs and arteries because your body doesn't create the collagen that holds them together. And that's what happened to their dad as well. He had an artery dissection that caused a stroke. And we did not know about it until after his stroke, and the surgeon that saved his life told us we should look into genetic testing to figure out why such a young man was having such a catastrophic stroke. So that's how we found that out, and we've been in treatment ever since. There is no cure for their disease, which is sad, but medicine has come such a long way that my hope and prayer would be that in 10 years there is a cure. It's not very common, so there's not a lot of funding put into it, which is frustrating, because it's not like I have a ton of funding that I can throw into research and just be like, here, find a cure, which is what I would do if I could, honestly. But the doctors that we see are amazing, and they've taken such good care of my kids. I'm so thankful for that. Okay, these are full. I made about 16 muffins, which is great. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. I'm gonna put these in the oven at 375. These are done, and they're definitely too hot to eat, but I just wanted to show, like, they just come straight off the paper. It's so beautiful. And now I'm going to try a bite. Look at how pretty these are. They're stunning. Oh, okay. I'm gonna burn my mouth. I don't even care. Delicious. A little sweet, and all those spices in there just really make it special. I'd be shocked if these lasted 4 days. My kids are gonna eat them all up. In the meantime, I hope you all have a lovely week. Enjoy something delicious, and I will see you around for the next session.